Welcome to Reddit Echoes, where we retell stories that sound unbelievable, but are 100% real. In today's video, you'll hear two stories that seem unrelated on the surface, but both lead to the same haunting question. Do we really know the people we love? And if we don't, do we have the courage to face the truth? The first story is about a young woman who receives what seems like an innocent gift from her boyfriend, a book. But just a few pages in, she begins to realize that behind that gift is a worldview that makes her question who he really is. The second story. It'll make you sigh or maybe even scream. A woman desperate to be the only one in her husband's heart does something unforgivable. She erases every memory of his late wife, and in doing so, robs his daughter of her mother a second time. There are no perfect characters in these stories, only people who made choices and paid the price. So buckle up, because once you've heard these stories, you might find yourself asking, what would you have done differently? Story 1. The book he gave me taught me something more important than love narration style. Natural, lightly sarcastic, tinged with disappointment and realization. I used to think that giving someone a book, especially someone you're dating, was one of the most romantic and thoughtful gestures you could make. I mean, when you give someone a book, it's not just a gift. It's a piece of you. It's what you think, what you believe, what you love. So when my boyfriend, a 37-year-old, well-educated, self-proclaimed feminist, polished and philosophically inclined, handed me a book and said, "I really love this one. I hope you'll like it too," I was genuinely touched. I was 25 at the time, only a few months into the relationship. We met in grad school. At first, we were just friends. Then somehow, somewhere along the way, it turned into something more. He used to help me study, listen to me cry after brutal class days. And when I left for a summer internship out of town, he gave me a goodbye hug and slipped a worn-out paperback into my hand, A Spell for Chameleon by Piers Anthony. I'd never heard of it before. I asked, "What's it about?" He just smiled and said, "Just read it. It was part of my childhood. I think you'll find it interesting. Now I'm a total bookworm. Harry Potter, Tolkien, Neil Gaiman, you name it, I devour it." So I eagerly packed the book, thinking I was about to uncover a whole new world. And oh boy. By page 2, I started wondering if my boyfriend was pulling a prank on me. You know how some books are bad, but in a way that's at least entertaining. This wasn't that. This was bad in a way that actively insulted the intelligence of anyone with a functioning brain. The main character was a narcissist with a wildly misogynistic streak. I thought I was reading a parody. But no. The author was dead serious. After the first chapter, I had to Skype him and ask if he really liked this book or if this was some kind of psychological challenge in disguise. I tried to be polite. I said, "It's a little different from what I usually read." He smiled and offered a deal if I finished the book he'd read the first Harry Potter, which he always dismissed as childish. I thought about it. Fair trade, I guess. And me being stubborn once I start a book, decided to push on. Chapter 2. Chapter 3. I started feeling like I was being waterboarded with words. This wasn't just a writing issue, it was an ethical one. Lines like, "I like pretty girls." But smart ones, that's suspicious. Normal girls get boring after a while, or all women are the same inside. They only differ in appearance and skills. But in the end, they're just looking to use men. I sat there book in hand wondering, what exactly does the man I love see in this? That's when the first red flag lit up in my head. We'd talked so much about values. He told me he respected women, believed in gender equality, used to date a social activist. And yet here I was, holding what felt like a red pill manifesto disguised as fantasy fiction. I started questioning things. I wanted to stop reading, but I'm a woman of my word. So I kept going, making notes, highlighting the disturbing parts. I even Googled Piers Anthony controversy. And oh dear God, I wish I hadn't. I stumbled onto reviews of his other works, especially one called Firefly. Long story short, it's basically a manifesto of sexual weirdness filled with themes of incest, grape, and other deeply disturbing stuff I won't even repeat here. One scene apparently described a character dying from an intense orgasm. What I realized, I wasn't just reading a bad book anymore. I was getting a peek into my boyfriend's inner world, and what I saw chilled me to the bone. We Skyped again. I started by saying I appreciated him sharing something meaningful. But then, he laughed. Not mockingly, more like, "Yeah, it's bad, huh?" I blinked. He admitted I read it when I was 20. Thought it was great back then. Looking at it now, yeah, there are some issues. I let out a sigh of relief. We laughed together, talked about things we used to love in our younger, dumber days. He even said he'd read Harry Potter with his kid because apparently his kid liked it too. I felt warm again, safe. I thought, okay, this is still the man I love. I really thought everything would be fine. But then, a month later we broke up. No big fights, no cheating, just distance, silence. Texts slowed down, and eventually one final phone call that ended with, "I don't think we're right for each other." I don't know if the book was the last straw. But I do know that after reading it, I started looking at the entire relationship through a different lens. Maybe he wasn't quite the person I thought he was. Maybe I'd trusted too easily just because the words sounded kind. Maybe when someone hands you a book filled with outdated and prejudiced ideas they used to love what they're giving you isn't just a nostalgic token, it's the first clue to who they really are. So now if someone asks me, should I read A Spell for Chameleon? My answer would be, read it if you want to learn how to tell the difference between someone who loves fantasy and someone who lives in one. Story 2. I erased every trace of my husband's late wife, and now I might lose everything narration style. Personal, somber, honest, quietly haunting. I know I'm the villain in this story. I'm not here to defend what I did. But if you've ever loved someone whose heart still partly belonged to someone else, even someone who's gone, you might understand the life I've been living. I met my husband 4 years ago. He was a widower with a young daughter. His wife had died in an accident when their little girl was just 10 years old. I knew even back then that stepping into his life meant I'd always be living in the shadow of a woman who no longer existed, but never really left. And I still did it. Because he was warm, he was kind, and I was too lonely to walk away from a love like that. When we were dating, everything felt sweet. He was attentive, emotionally mature, always saying I brought laughter back into his life after a long period of darkness. I believed that. We got married after 2 years together. But I won't lie. I was always jealous of his late wife. Not because he compared us. He never did. But because everything around him still felt like her. Their wedding photo hung in the living room. A picture of her holding their daughter sat by the bed. In the kitchen, a sticky note she once wrote, "Don't forget the milk," was laminated and displayed like a cherished relic. I tried to be understanding. I smiled. I said things like, "I get it. She was a big part of your life." But every night I went to bed in that house, I felt like a guest. Like I had lost a battle I didn't even know I was fighting. The breaking point came when we moved. We bought a small house together, our fresh start or so, I thought. But while packing, I came across box after box filled with photos, mementos, even their old anniversary cards. One of them read, "Forever yours." I felt like a replacement, a background actor thrown into the lead role in someone else's film, and it drove me mad. I started throwing away the pictures, first the ones of just her, then the ones of her with him, then the family photos. I told myself we need room for the future, that I was clearing space for new memories. Then I deleted the photo folders on his computer. I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I just did it like scrubbing away a stain I couldn't bear to look at anymore. 2 years passed. No one noticed. I was still his wife. Still the normal stepmother. His daughter and I were never close. She always kept a distance. But I didn't blame her. I figured time would soften the edges. Until one day, my mother-in-law, his daughter's grandmother, decided to make a photo album for her granddaughter's 18th birthday. She asked my husband, "Could you send me some photos of her mother? I want to make her a section." He opened his computer, went through the boxes. Nothing. Then he turned to me. Not angry, not accusatory. Just a simple question. "Have you seen those pictures?" I couldn't answer. I just stood there caught like a thief with no way out. I confessed. Every item, every photo, every deleted file. I cried. I said I felt guilty, that I didn't know what I was thinking, that I was scared. Scared I'd never be the only woman in his heart. He looked at me like I'd stabbed him. He didn't scream. He just went quiet. That night he didn't sleep in our bed. And every night after, he still didn't. He said he needed time. But not the give me time to cool off kind. The I need time to find myself again after being betrayed by someone I love kind. I suggested marriage counseling. He declined. I was 13 weeks pregnant at the time. But in that moment, I felt invisible. He didn't touch me, didn't look at me. And I knew he no longer saw me as family. I tried to fix it. I reached out to her old friends, begged for pictures, searched Facebook, asked my mother-in-law, her best friend, distant relatives. I tried to piece back together the memories I had burned. But nothing was enough. No digital copy could replace the photo she had glued into their wedding album. No one had the handwritten letter she wrote after giving birth to their daughter. And I had torn it up. A year later, I gave birth to a son. My stepdaughter came to the hospital, not to see me, but to meet her baby brother. She took a few pictures, said nothing to me, and left. Since that day, I've never seen her smile at me again. 6 years later, I found out she posted this story on Reddit. I don't blame her. I read her words, and I understand why she hates me. I don't hate her because she's a stepmom. I hate her because she erased every memory I had of my mother. She didn't just destroy objects. She destroyed my mom's existence in my mind. No one has the right to take my mother away from me twice. My husband eventually forgave me, at least on paper. We still live in the same house, raise our son, eat dinner together. But he's no longer the man who once said, "You brought me back to life." His daughter never calls me mom. She didn't attend our vow renewal ceremony, but I heard she was at her grandmother's funeral standing 2 meters away from me. Back turned. I destroyed a part of someone's life out of jealousy. I chose to compete with a ghost, and I lost. I lost trust. I lost love. I lost the family I so desperately wanted. If you've read this far, and you're in love with someone who has a past, please remember, you can't erase what came before you, but you can choose not to make it disappear forever. I chose wrong. And now, I live with that choice every single day. And those were today's 2 stories. 2 echoes of choices no one ever teaches us how to make. In the first, we saw that love and respect aren't always enough to sustain a relationship, especially when the distance between 2 people's worldviews grows wider than any physical space. Sometimes a single book reveals more than 1,000 conversations ever could. And the second was a painful lesson in blind jealousy. Some wounds don't bleed, but they fester quietly, corroding trust and a child's memories. We're told that time heals all wounds, but as you've seen, some wounds never really heal. What do you think? Who was in the wrong? And who deserves forgiveness? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you've ever faced something similar, or know someone who had to choose between present love and an unresolved past, we invite you to tell your story. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss the latest true Reddit stories. from Reddit Echoes, where every story is an echo of real emotion, real choices, and real consequences. Thank you for listening. We'll see you in the next video. Reddit Echoes. Every echo is a story worth remembering.